Edward Miles owned the Miles Distillery in New Hope, Kentucky, but he was a very faithful Catholic. Here's the church right here. This is Ed Miles over here, if you'd like to see them. He donated the land and some of the money to build this church. The cornerstone was laid June the 12th, 1887, and by the end of December, the edifice was under roof here. It's a beautiful church, has really, really pretty windows. If you ever have the opportunity to go over and look at their windows, it's Gothic in design, and it sits in a little village in New Hope, which is not very big, but has always been alive and functioning there. The distilleries grew up around, the town grew up around the distilleries there at New Hope. I'm going to show you again St. Catherine. This is another view of St. Catherine with the interior view and the burned. See, there's the original church. Here was the interior, and this interior is probably around 1900. And then there is the church after the fire. So you saw how they had to rebuild it. A lot of people don't realize that it burned. Okay. Here we go. The Abbey of Gethsemane. This does not show, you can see the spiral of the church right here at the Abbey, but I like these pictures too about it. I don't have an interior picture, of course. This was the old gatehouse. For everyone that came had to go through this gate. And over here were the grape arbor. This is where they raised the grapes that they made their sacramental wine. And he's got a mule. I don't know how much grace that mule had. I'm sure that things were said to him that weren't holy, because most mules bring out the worst in us, particularly if they're pretty stubborn. That way. We got to the Abbey. The Abbey was actually founded before the Civil War in 1848. The monasteries were the monks of the monastery were members of the Cistercian order of the Catholic Church, known as Trappists, coming from the Abbey of Malay in France. St. Thomas Church is the next we're going to visit, and St. Thomas has a lot of Catholic history. I mean, it's the first church that Bishop Flaget would build. This is the earliest picture we have of it right here with the people. This is like a 1905 picture, which again, it hasn't changed at all. If you look at this one down here, you'll see the same look as this. And in the background, you see the log house that Bishop Flaget, when he first arrived, he lived in the Thomas Howard home, and that would be Flaget's house. They would say Mass there while they were building on this church. This was completed before Flaget came to Bardstown to build St. Joseph Cathedral. It was built in 1795, the home. It's considered the oldest structure associated with Catholicism west of the Allegheny Mountains. It's recently been restored and preserved. The present church was built in 1816. It's today the oldest Catholic church building west of the Allegheny Mountains. From 1812 to 1819, Bishop John Baptist David served as the first pastor of St. Thomas. It was modeled after St. Mary's in Baltimore. It's a lovely little church, has lots of nice atmosphere going in that. All right, when we talk about St. Thomas, at St. Thomas were the Sisters of Charity. That's where they were organized in 1811. They are now 200 years old. Now, Charity has a whole catalog here. Let's see. This Union, St. Joseph, Nazareth. Beautiful church, St. Vincent de Paul at Nazareth. Now you have an interior. Can you catch this? This is the inside of the church. Often we don't have the inside pictures. That's the inside of St. Vincent de Paul at Nazareth. The exterior is this. In 1824, a small brick church was built to serve the religious needs of the sisters. By 1854, the members had grown considerably, so a larger church was needed. William Keeley was chosen as the architect for this building. The materials used for the Gothic church were quarried from the stone found on the farm, bricks made on the site from Kentucky soil, and lime supplied by the natural deposits. After the brick church was consecrated, a layer of stucco was added, and to beautify the exterior, blocks of Indiana limestone were used as a finish. They have the twin towers here, very Gothic, very pointy. And today, this door, the only time I know this door opens is for funerals, when they bring the casket out. You usually go in and you go around into the church and through a side door in the hallway there. Of course, that's open to the public. Like most all the churches we talk about, they are open. All right, Nazareth, and then now we're getting down to St. Joseph. We've come back to Bardstown. We'll see if we can catch everything I have missed in talking about Bardstown churches. St. Joseph Cathedral. This was designed by John Rogers, the architect from Maryland. It was built between 1816 and 1819 by Benedict Joseph Flagey. The bell tower, steeple, and the front porch were added in 1822. The installation date of the stone and iron fence is unknown, but it was removed in 1950s. You can kind of see it through this picture. There's a nice stone and metal fence around it. You also see statues there that have been changed and moved around. The interior pictures, and I think I've got a better one. If you give me a minute, I think there's a larger picture here you can see. These two books were written about 20 years apart, I think. Methodist here. People in the 1890s to 1920, we had a really, really good photographer here named Munford. And here's a good shot of the interior before a lot of the changes. You see that? A little bigger to see. Same picture, bigger size. You had the electric lights you may see here were added in 1910. The paintings on the ceiling were put in the 1800s. And in 1905, a gentleman was brought in to, 1903, Mr. Robb was hired to clean and restore the paintings on the walls. The electric lights replaced kerosene lights that hung in the same place. First change or first renovation of the building was in 1879. This picture is a 1915 picture. I want to get another shot of the Samuel P. Jones building because that is so important in our community. And this is the one that everybody shared. I don't think I've got the Methodist yet either. One of the shots, I'm going to use this one because this is a great story. You know, churches are buildings, but the life in a church are the people. If you can get this little picture, this lady, whose name is Esther Pash, she's standing across the street in front of the Union Church. And the reason she is in this picture, her grandson is going to be baptized, and he's going to be immersed in water. And she is said to have heated bricks and carried them over to warm the water up so her grandson wouldn't have to be baptized in cold water. Does that sound like a grandmother? Looking away. This picture here is the Presbyterian Church in Bardstown. This was built in 1827. Charles Anderson Wycliffe sold the Presbyterians land for the church for $200 and free pew rent. That was 1827. Wycliffe lived to 1869 and he never had to pay for his pew rent, which is what the donation you make, more or less renting your seat in church. Over here we have the Methodist Church. I know it's over here, I just had it. Here we go. This is a very good view of that Methodist church we talked about, which this is what it looked like before the last lightning strike. That was in 1998 when the lightning struck it last. This window right there was the casualty of that, besides the damage inside the building. But all the other stained glass windows, none of them were destroyed, even though it was a very bad fire. We had a tour this fall that took us around to many of these churches. It was a bus tour that we put together to allow people to ride around the countryside in the pretty fall and get to visit the churches inside and out. And that wasn't monetarily very successful, but everyone that took it really enjoyed it. And I thought that might be a way that we could show you some information about the time. I'll show you too the Bardstown Baptist Church. This is the one I mentioned, that the Gothic. This is stone. Inside there's a huge wheel of a chandelier. It must be 60 inches across, that had kerosene lamps on it. And it's still there, though it's been wired for electricity. If you kind of look to the back, you'll see sheds back here. They're kind of hard to see, but there were sheds back here with just the roof and the sides. These were for parking your horses. You came and you put your horse. You see that? Yeah, you can see it. That was where you went and you put your horse, and I guess your buggy could stay there too, but when you came to church, you didn't just park him out there in the open. You put him in the shed so he wouldn't be in the sun or the rain or whatever. That way. I'm going to find St. Monica's because that's a good picture. This one is the Bardstown Christian Church, which is now the Episcopal Church, up here in the corner. I like the little car in front of it. You can see it's an older picture. I'm not sure how old the car is. That's the nice thing about our churches. They continue on. They don't change much in looks. You might have to put air conditioning in, or you may have to paint it, or replace the carpet. I used to say that the Baptists use blue and the Methodists use green. So I don't know whether that's still the way it's going or not. But when you went to some of the Baptist churches, you always saw the blue. This is the First Christian Church, Disciples of Christ, which is a new church. The reason I have it in here, it's not the church, it's because the organization, the congregation goes back to the 1930s. This is out by the cemetery north of town, and it was built, and when they sold their church to the Episcopal Church of the Ascension, for a short time they shared it with them. And I thought that was very nice because here you are, you both need a church, and you're sharing one church until this one could be finished and they could use it. Okay, I got Methodist, and I've got St. Joseph. I got you that picture. Union. Let me see if I can get another shot of the Union Church. Here's a side shot of the Union Church we hadn't seen. If you go up there today, you can look at the building right here under my fingers. You can look at the building and see where changes have taken place, where things have been added on. The three windows you see up and down, that's the original church. They've added on some there on the end. The entrance to that church was at the end of the building, not on the side here. You had stairs that went up into the second floor with it. This goes back to 1812. This is the oldest church building in Bardstown. And it was built to use for worship, and it has been used in worship ever since. And that in itself is something to stop and think about. We respect our churches, we respect our ministers. We all work together to show our faith and to provide for the future. Because if you have a place of worship, people will come and worship. And if you don't have it, they'll still come and worship under the tree, in a house, or down by the spring.